Okay, we're going to go ahead and call the meeting back to order. Last month we did have our preliminary review of our draft budget, and Charlie is back with us today to present that. Okay.
Good morning.
Morning.
Okay, we're bringing back before you again this month for the second review of our budget for fiscal year 2014-15. So you should have in front of you copies of the Economic Development Council budget, as well as the Industrial Development Authority. And then there's a third budget in there that we will go over that gives you kind of a preliminary look at what it would be like if we moved the EDC office out to the Tech River building. So we'll give you a chance to look at that budget and have some discussion on that today. If we want to first go through the Industrial Development Authority budget, which should be your first page. From last month's meeting, there were not any comments from the board at that meeting on any particular changes, increases, decreases to the budget per se. At this time, we want to give you the opportunity to again look at the budget, review it, and make any final decisions on any changes that need to be made. Next month, the budget will go for final approval at the September meeting. So between now and then, final comments and review should be done. There was one comment that Mr. Samuels made that I would like to address. He did discuss under property management, we have now included all of the expenses it takes to run Tech River. Before, they were separated out because we had a specific allocation in the Mosaic budget for monies that had been appropriated. We have spent those monies, so when we went to this budget, we just started consolidating all of our expenses under property management, which comes out of the general fund of the IDA. Mr. Samuels expressed that he would really like to see that broken out again and see the direct expenses categorized. So I wanted to give the board the opportunity to discuss that and decide if they would like to do that. If you decide that, we can certainly break that out and bring it for final approval at next month's board meeting. As it currently works, under property management right now, we have all of the properties that the IDA manages listed under that category. There is not one specific property that's broken out. So again, if we want to have some discussion on whether or not we want to break that out, or if we want to just simply keep a property management category that then under your expenses does list all of the separate categories, such as the ground maintenance and the utilities, the insurance expenses, those types of things. There are those categories under expenses, but we just have a heading of property management that includes all of the IDA property. So at this time, we can take up discussion on any and all changes that you feel need to be made or any discussions that you would like to have.
Okay, I got one question. Apparently, I'm the only one that wants to see each property and seeing how much it's costing us for each property to be, funded. So, but that's okay. Under insurance expense. Now, that's all of the insurance for all the buildings except, well, I guess all the buildings that we own, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, Does that still include us paying the business insurance for Continuum Labs?
Business insurance. What, I'm not sure what that is.
Well, it's my understanding that we pay the building insurance like we normally should, but we also pay the business insurance for Continuum Labs.
We don't pay any business insurance for Continuum Labs.
Okay, well,
I'm
Bill
not sure
told me
what-
we did. Yes. You said that Joe Albritton said that it had to be done that way. Would you check on
I
that,
don't know.
on the policy or something? Just let me know.
I mean, yeah, I can tell you, I know all of the insurance policies that we currently have. We have a building policy on the Tech River building itself. We have a building policy on each of the spec buildings, and also one on the incubator. Those would be the only ones, and then we have insurance, on the Grove property and the rental houses. Those would be the only properties under the IDA. The other insurance policies that this organization is responsible for fall under the EDC budget. We have a general liability policy and a director and officer policy. And so those would be the only ones that I know of that would cover a specific entity, would be the Economic Development Council insurance.
Yeah, this is the only one I'm asking about. You can let me know. You can look at the policies and see or see.
Okay.
Yeah.
We would carry property and a general liability policy on every piece of property we own because we
Yeah.
still have exposure.
I'm talking about business insurance.
We have no business policies at all.
Okay, all right. And I guess that, what is that, under the broadband? Explain that, what is that? Is that money they owe us or something?
The $127,000, that's the money that the board voted to appropriate in the case that Rapid Systems received some remuneration in their lawsuit. They would reimburse the IDA that amount. So we've put that in the budget, showing it as an income coming into the IDA.
So that lawsuit's still active then? Is that
Correct.
Oh, okay.
And we don't have a final say as to whether or not they are going to be awarded the money, but we've gone ahead and put it in and booked it,
Okay.
assuming it's going to come in.
All right.
Sarah, from the standpoint of how much extra work is other than just putting those individual things in there instead of taking all the management fees and joining them together, it's really not that big a deal.
It's not a big deal. It really just makes the spreadsheet bigger. It's not a huge deal at all. This was just a typical, in fact, talking to Charlie, actually, the way that we have our budgets laid out is actually very atypical for a governmental agency. We actually show a lot more detail than what he would normally present. But we felt like that was necessary, especially with the funds that we have, that we're responsible for. So it's not a big deal to do it. We'll just make the spreadsheet larger.
Let's do it. Let's go ahead and do it. It's not a big deal.
Essentially, that's just gonna break down, property management that is specific to a project, I'm sure is being categorized under the project. So essentially, that's just gonna break down to Incubator and Tech River. Is that pretty much?
Well, that'll also, if we break out all of property management, it's going to break out everything. That's going to break out all of the Commerce Park lots that we're responsible for that are under our control still. It's going to break out the Grove. It's going to break out the rental houses. It's going to break out PFM, Keyplex, the incubator. We will have separate categories for each of those buildings or projects or pieces of property.
So doing it this way, and I don't know if maybe between you and Charlie you can answer. If we segment all of these costs out, and then we have to break down in we have to allocate the cost appropriately to each lot, Commerce Park, then there would be somewhat of a burden in ensuring that the costs are allocated appropriately to each lot for when we are audited. Those would be audit findings if they were not allocated properly.
Yes. We
So-
would have to, from time to time, probably do a few more amendments to the budget, I would think, as expenses are incurred on each particular project.
Donald, you just wanted Tech River Billy, Lori. That's the only one you, that's the only one, that's the only one you wanted broken out, right?
That's the only one that I thought about, but, you know, she's right. I think if, I didn't know we incurred a whole lot of costs for Keyplex. So if we are paying something for Keyplex, other things, then I guess we need to know it.
Well, we're not,
And
per
PF
se,
Man?
incurring a lot, but there are expenses that are still, we still own the building. So, I mean, we do have,
Well, and that's something we ought to know. Is there a lot of maintenance going on, or should it be under a warranty or anything? I guess there's a warranty would be over for that building, I guess, for certain things that's in there.
I don't think it would be so much for that building, but, you know, for mowing in the Commerce Park, how specific is the audit, you know, when we do have these expenses audited, how specific is it gonna need to be? Are we gonna need to break down costs associated with each lot in the Commerce Park? Can we do the Commerce Park maintenance in general? My only concern, I don't have any problem with breaking it down, my only concern is when we go to be audited, does that create complexities in our audit that we need to allocate expenses to each of those entities, and how much should we break that down?
I mean, we could do it something like break out the budgets for Tech River, the incubator, and then the Commerce Park, which in the Commerce Park, we then could encompass, you know, all of the lots, the Grove, the rental houses, and we could do it that way. At least you would then have a breakout of Tech River. You would have a specific breakout of, you know, the incubator, and then you'd have a kind of an informal breakout of the Commerce Park itself that, you know, may not have line items for Grove, houses, each property, but it would still be separate from Tech River and the incubator so that you would know.
Well, Charlie, you're the government accounting guy. This is government money, citizens' money. What direction should we go?
That's fine. I mean, if you want to see more detail on that, or we could kind of do like Kristen did with the IDA marketing budgets, just have like an informal backup to the property management column and show you know how Kristen had the different on the IDA marketing column. She actually has budgets that support those figures. We could,
A, B, and C.
yeah, we
Right.
could have like an informal backup to
not
the property management column.
Formalized budgets that would then have all of the backup required to audit the specific category.
Right. I mean, would that be okay with you? I mean, to just kind of break out the property management between those three categories on like a separate informal budget?
So in essence, this is your formal budget that will be presented online. This is what you'll adopt, the format. So it would stay the same on this, but then as attachments, yes, A, B, C, however many, you would have kind of mini budgets that would segregate out your particular projects.
That seems like a good
It would be an
approach.
individual budget, separate.
That seems like a good approach to me. That reduces the complexity of the budget, but still gives all of us the detail we need to be able to see.
Right.
And would that also allow some flexibility without having to formally reapprove and adopt if any of the expenses on those columns break down and change, since those would not be formalized budgets, more or less worksheets that wouldn't require an approval process every time something is shifted on the property management?
Right.
I think we would kind of treat it how we used to before we went to, this government accounting. Whenever we would do the mosaic allocations, and I would bring the working papers that, that was a separate budget that had all of the different projects that you guys had allocated money towards. It would kind of be like that. We didn't have to do amendments to it, for auditing purposes. It was a working paper, but it was still a separate segregated budget so that you could see the detail.
How do y'all feel about the categories that you want to see? Are you good with the three, the Tech River, the incubator, and then the Commerce Park, kind of all encompassing the houses out there, the Grove, or?
So the Grove would be included in Commerce Park?
That's how we've shown it. I mean, up top under the revenues, the Grove is broken out, the fruit income, and when the rental income on the Grove, or the two houses out there, and then the cattle lease. But however y'all would most like to see it.
I would be fine with that.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments from board members?
Charlie, for my purposes, the more segregation, the better.
Okay.
Yeah,
We can decide where to draw the lines, but the more the better.
Okay.
I agree with that.
We have a kind of working spreadsheet, and I think it has close to 50 items on it, because there's water management permits, stormwater management permits, consumptive use permits, or WUPs, I think they're referred to as, air conditioning units, submersible pumps. There's just a whole bunch of mechanical items that exist as sub-layers, and I'd rather all of that be listed by each individual property.
Okay.
Any other direction from board members? As I previously mentioned, we will be considering formal adoption of this budget in our next meeting, so this is the opportunity to make any changes so that we will be prepared to adopt that budget. We will need to adopt that budget at the next meeting, I believe, for
Yes.
our timeframes. So definitely want to allow time for any input at this time. Any other questions or comments from either of you?
I don't think so. At the next board meeting, the only other change is on the estimated fund balance carry forwards at 9/30/14 will be a little more fine tuned than what they are now for the actual activity. We'll be almost to the fiscal year end.
So we'll be making our last amendments to the current fiscal year budget at next month's
In
meeting.
September also, we'll have most of the final year for this current fiscal year budget amendments.
Now, so which of these back two are we adopting, or are we just adopting both with the understanding that we don't know timeline when we're going to make those changes? So we have this one for before the move and this one for after the move?
Are you on EDC now?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so we are going to move, is that what you're saying?
Well, we have two budgets here to consider, one that has
Right.
a move included, one that does not. So
Yeah.
I don't know what the formal process would be. We haven't made a decision on
Okay.
that. I don't know what the formal process would be if we need to consider both, or how does that work?
Really, the purpose for bringing you both budgets today was just to kind of give you a visual and help you start understanding where the savings would be, or additional costs would come into play if we were to move to Tech River. So it's entirely up to the board as to how you want to handle it or how you want to go forward, but we did want to give you kind of a look at what the budget would look like and the budget impacts would be if we did move the operations out there.
I would just say on the EDC's budget, what's different about that than the IDA is this is an informal budget. It's not budget actuals, not shown in the financial statements, and we don't amend this budget throughout the year. So basically, I mean, you can have both of them if you want to, however you want to approach it.
Charlie, on the EDC Tech River budget,
Yes, sir.
under utilities,
Mm-hmm.
$2,000 a month, and the total is $3,700. How in the world do you do that?
Yeah, I overlooked that, Donald. Christy and Sarah updated this one, and the totals in the far right column are correct in math. I overlooked that formula. I apologize. They showed a reduction in the utilities moving to Tech River from the 7,500 in the original budget. Feel like the utility costs over in the Tech River would be less than what they're paying now.
How would it be less?
We would be in a smaller space than we're currently in. You have to remember, okay,
Oh,
we'll
that
go
building
ahead.
is huge, and we pay the light bill for that building, no matter if there's
It
one or
is,
100 in it.
but it is not in, all of that cost is not in the EDC budget. That is in the IDA under property management.
Oh.
The IDA
See,
owns
that's
that
what's-
building.
That's what gets confusing.
So, well, that's why we wanted to take a look at it with you today, to kind of go over things such as that. So, in the instance of the utilities, yes, we have allocated a smaller amount because we would be moving into a smaller space than what we're currently in. The EDC will not be responsible for paying the entire utility bill of Tech River. The majority of it is still being paid by the IDA out of property management because they are the owner of the building. So, the EDC budget is still the same from last month. Comparing the two, currently in our current location, we bring in $12,000 in rent for Main Street Wauchula being in the office. If we were to move to Tech River, we would lose that income. So we have to take that into consideration. And then under the expenses, again, the utilities are being reduced. We have reduced the rent that we would pay down to an amount of $10,000 rather than $28,000. We have also increased the amount under office supplies. Under our current budget, we have $3,000. In the Tech River budget, we have $9,000 because if we move locations, we would be responsible for purchasing some sort of copier machine, copy fax scanner. The one that is in the building right now is owned by the chamber. So we've added those costs into it. And then those are the only expenses that would change from where we currently are. So taking all that into consideration, plus the reducing the $12,000 that we would bring in income, we would still have around a $19,000 savings from what we're currently operating at. You also have to think about it in that there's an overhead budget at Tech River no matter what, no matter where we are. If we stay on Main Street, if we move to Tech River, if we move to somewhere else, we have those overhead expenses that the organization is going to cover. They're currently being covered under the IDA's general fund budget, but nonetheless, it's still being covered by us. So we now just would open it up to discussion for you to debate the cost savings, or how you feel about the move, or if you see the benefit.
What would you do about the sign?
We've looked at that. Bill has, tossed around some ideas, of what we would do. You're talking about the Tech River sign?
Yeah, that would have to totally change, looks like to me. If you moved out there, you'd have to have the
I don't know that it
the
would have to
EDO or
change.
EDC or where people would know.
Well, yes,
I
we
think
would certainly
we'd have to add, Tech River is
the
us.
building.
I mean, that's what we named the building.
Right.
So I think we would have to look at considering some additional signage, so it was obvious that that was our economic development office.
Mhm.
But as far as like the building name or the name of the
complex itself would still remain Tech River.
we would probably need to consider adding some additional signage to identify
Yes.
that that's our economic development office.
Mhm.
Well, me personally, somebody comes to town looking for the EDC, they go to Main Street. That's where they go. I don't care what county or you go, especially a rural county. To me, that's where it needs to stay.
What's the pros and cons of moving off of Main Street, to Donald's point, versus being there with the chamber and with Main Street Wauchula? I mean, what is the you know, the swimming upstream or downstream? What would that be? Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good word synergy.
Yeah.
I mean, in my personal opinion, I think that that's 100% what this board needs to decide and what they need to weigh. Do the pros or cons outweigh one or the other of us moving off of Main Street, of us separating from the chamber and Main Street, but us also recognizing that we are paying 2 overhead budgets. We do have an increase in rent every March. We're up to $28,000 a year in rent right now. So I think it's a very probably difficult decision.
I agree that there are pros and cons to consider. You know, as I'm thinking about DeSoto County, Highlands County, some of the other surrounding rural communities, their offices are not located on Main Street. I do think that, you know, obviously it is a benefit to Main Street, and a lot of people consider that when they are looking at a rural community. But on the flip side, I also don't think that the building that we are currently in represents a $40 million business, to be quite frank. And we have, you know, a lot riding on the monies that we do have. We need to be the best stewards that we can of the monies. To me, it doesn't make sense what we're paying in that location for what we're getting in return. We have not, we do not have the ability to make any modifications. It doesn't truly suit our needs. The layout, to me, is not conducive for, you know, the building security, the security of the information, and I think that being in a more professional appearing office building or complex is, in my opinion, suits economic development and putting our best foot forward and our best image. That area of our community is a pretty nice area with a lot of commerce surrounding that. And, you know, in addition to that, we also have the backup generator that we can take advantage of. So I think that there are, you know, there are pros and cons. You know, I don't know what the city's intentions are with Jessica and Main Street, whether or not they have other plans or other locations for her to move to. So to me, I feel like we have to kind of make the decision as an independent organization. You know, I do like the fact that we're on Main Street. However, the location of the building versus what we're getting for what we're paying, to me, that's a little bit of something for me that outweighs where we're at.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd like to
Yeah, I
comment on
agree.
the chamber and Main Street. To me, they need to be on Main Street, whether it's in City Hall or an office downtown. But as far as the rest of it, I know there is some synergism with 3 different groups, you know, getting stuff done down there. But if we can save money and utilize that building, I'm all for that. But I would think the chamber as a whole would have problems moving the chamber out there myself.
I'll tell you too that we've done some traveling, Linda and I, in the past, you know, couple of years, and I try to make it a point if we're in some little small town or someplace, and I try to find the EDC office or the IDA office just to see where it is, and, you know, walk in and play dumb. I know some think I don't have to play to do that, but typically what we'll do is I'll get the yellow pages or I'll get the phone book and I'll look and see where they are. Some have been downtown Main Street, some have been 2 miles outside of town in some other complex, but you know, I don't know that I mean, I like being on Main Street, but I don't know we have to be. But in other states, the ones that we've traveled to, for me to find where the EDC office is, I'll look it up. I don't just drive around and say, well, I can't find it.
Madam Chair, how much walk-in, and realizing that Main Street's and Main Street and the Chamber's in the same office, but how much walk-in business does the Economic Development Office get?
I would say a pretty fair amount. I mean, because typically, this is what happens. Typically, if it's someone who is specifically coming to look for the Economic Development Office, they see the chamber or find the chamber and go into the chamber office to ask. I mean, that's typically the scenario that plays out. So we're already in the building and we say, well, it just so happens that, economic development's here. But, I mean, typically the walk-in traffic that we get is because they see the chamber or Main Street, and they actually may not know that they need us, the Economic Development Office. But once we start to engage them and talk to them about what it is they're wanting, it's, oh, well, the Economic Development Office can help you with that. Or, no, that's actually something that is handled within the CRA. Well, here's Jessica. So that to me is probably one of the best things that works, is that no matter what they're looking for, chances are one of us in that office is the person they need to see. So it's not that they're coming in and we say, oh, well, you need to go, down the road 2 blocks, or you go to this office and go up the stairs. It's, oh, well, we happen to have all of those organizations here in one building, and you need to talk to Jessica, or you need to talk to Bill, or whoever, or myself.
Other than getting away from me.
That was the primary reason. Any other questions or comments from the board? Technically, I don't know that the move is finalized with our consideration of the budget. It's it's a good point of conversation for us, but it's something that we will be needing to consider probably at the next meeting, as far as officially moving and what kind of expenses would be involved. Mm-hmm. Because we do have, again, are we on a month-to-month? I believe
we are.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I would add that the city has made provisions for Main Street and the Chamber, if they so choose, to locate at the old police station, bus station building that's right on Main Street. So I don't think any of that will be a problem if we relocate.
Let me ask you again about the marketing. Who are we going to be marketing to for $125,000? We're not just marketing to Hardee County for that, are we?
Oh, no, absolutely not. That line item, remember, includes
A salary for an undetermined marketing person.
it includes her, some backup budgets for the incubator, as well as the regular EDC marketing.
Okay, so we're going to hire another staff person? Is that what you're saying, to be marketing?
I don't.
Is that what you
We
said?
have-
At some point, we did not eliminate that position. I'm not sure where that came from.
Oh, okay.
That position was,
Yeah.
I thought we made that clear at the last meeting, that Kristen resigned to take another opportunity. She was offered a position in another line of business, and she resigned. We did not eliminate that position, just to be clear with everyone. Now, we may take this opportunity to look at reworking the staffing and who's going to do what and what types of skill sets we need for that position, but the position was not eliminated.
Well, why wouldn't that be under salaries then, the position that's made instead of marketing?
Well, I think that's something, leaving it in marketing allows us the flexibility. If we decided we don't want to have an additional staff person and we want to hire an outside firm, I think it was just a little more flexible to have that in the marketing budget so that we had those funds designated for marketing than placing it in salaries, which we always have the opportunity to move things around in the budget with just a budget amendment.
Okay, there was, if I remember right, there was money for a consultant. Do we know who that consultant is?
a consultant for.
What, there $10,000 in this for a consultant or something?
I think those things he's referring
Yes.
to from Kristen's
backup budget.
last
Yes.
month.
She did allocate $10,000 in there for a consultant. There's not a particular consultant that she had. We do not have anybody under contract, no. But she did allocate some money to put towards a consulting firm or a consultant if need be, if you choose to go that route of wanting to seek the assistance of a marketing consultant. You don't have to spend the money. She just, in her budget, allocated a portion of the funds, to that.
Yeah, well, and that's fine probably. $125,000 is an awful lot of money to put in a budget that you don't know whether you're gonna spend it or not. Okay.
Any other questions or comments from board members?
I have one issue related to the budget, and it involves the bionitrogen grant from the EDA. Their funding cycle occurs either the same day. I'm not certain that we have another meeting before they meet. So I'd like you to consider, if we are not going to keep the bionitrogen EDA grant, what we do with it. We have two options. We can petition the EDA to reassign it to our new spec building proposal, or we can turn it back in and let them determine whether or not they want to fund the new spec building. And I need your guidance on whether you would prefer to ask them to reassign that grant it was a spec building, we reassigned it for a rail spur, and to ask them to reassign it back to a spec building, or to simply turn it in to the EDA. And we have a grant application. If we turned it in, we would then seek funding for that application. If we ask them to reassign it, we would withdraw the other spec building application. What's the pleasure of the board on that point?
We would withdraw if they agree, correct?
Yes. I mean, there's two options, and it's really up to the EDA. They can say, we'll take the grant that you have, we're just going to reassign it, we're not going to put it back into the cycle. And if we do that, then I'd like permission to withdraw the existing spec building grant that we have.
So it's not an in addition to, it's instead of.
Yes. Just like to have the option for the next meeting to go either way.
That seems reasonable to me.
I mean, I think it's up to them on how they, I would say present the two options to them, because we already have the application in.
Whichever one they feel more comfortable.
That's fine. It's this board's grant, and I needed your permission. So, then I will take it to the EDA.
Well, you have my permission, I don't know about the rest of the board.
Does anyone have any issue with that? Okay. Okay, anything else on the EDC budgets?
I don't think so.
Okay. If not, we will go ahead and move on. Thank you, Sarah and Charlie.
Thank you.
And we will go ahead and move into our project updates.
This time I'd like to introduce to you Jeff Kitzinger. Jeff is a local Hardy County person, and he has a proposal related to the incubator. And Jeff, I'll give you a few moments to get set up. I think you have a PowerPoint presentation.
Yes.
How much time do you need?
15, 20 minutes.
Okay. And are you prepared to begin?
Yes.
Okay. It's your floor.
All right. Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. It's nice to meet all of you. My name is Jeff Kinziger. I'm the Vice President of Operations for Delcom. Their subdivision is called Intersect Services, is what I'll be working in. What Delcom does is, if you get to the second slide, we provide a TV, phone, internet, home entertainment security system to end users, mainly using bulk service agreements. What we're doing is we'll design, implement, and support a fiber optic